Technology is amazing in the things that have happened. The way that we can get stories out into the world, it's amazing at how tech has really provided this as a resource and really kind of a platform to do it. But it's the stories and the people that make it resonate and give it purpose.
Hello, and welcome to Along the Way Life's Journey. I'm your host, Carl Buccellato. Let's get the next journey started. Hello, and welcome to Along the Way Life's Journey. I'm your host, Carl Buccellato. Our guest today is Mike DiCioccio, founder of Social Chameleon, a production, distribution, and content company. He leads with a service above self mentality, seeking ways he can make a positive change within his community and the world. He is the host of Mic'd Up, a podcast with a mission to help inspire people to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams. He loves helping entrepreneurs, businesses, and brands tell their story and connect with their audiences. Mike is also a loving father to his adorable daughter, Isabel, an avid drummer, and he has a motto: be great and be grateful. Please welcome Mike DiCioccio.
Hey, Carl,
Mike.
Thank you so much, man. This is exciting to be on here. Obviously, I have a close interest in your show. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, in a little bit. But you were a guest on my show. Your story's incredible. And what I want to let the audience know is that you and I become friends. And part of the power of podcasting is we were introduced from a mutual friend, Ali Fodi Bork. So a shout out to Ali. And in that connection, you became someone who I thought would be great for the show. I connected with you and interviewed you. And all of a sudden we become friends. I get the opportunity today to be on here. And that wouldn't have happened if podcasting didn't exist, because that's what right. Kind of connected us all together.
That's right. It's an amazing new world. And,
it is.
People think that things change in magnitudes that are so beyond their scope. And yet this is a human one-to-one change. This is the type of thing that can bring people together in a very human way. And I love it. I love the communication aspect of it.
A few years ago, not long ago, maybe 3-4 years ago, when I just launched Social Chameleon back in 2017, I was meeting for people, and it was mostly local. I'm here in Buffalo, New York, and I meet people for coffee, business owners, entrepreneurs, and just kind of learn about their story. And man, the things they would share with me was amazing. And I remember getting that cup of coffee and leaving. We'd go both our two separate ways. And I'm like, if there was a fly on the wall that heard this conversation, somebody could have really benefited from it. Aside from me, I felt kind of selfish. I was the only one to hear their story. A lot of times people, for whatever reason, would open up to me. Maybe they know that I'm genuine and care about them and their story. And eventually I'm like, these need to be recorded. So maybe 1, 2, 10, 15, a million people can hear it and get help the way that I was getting inspiration from it. And that's what really encouraged me to press the record button.
It's amazing. And as you know, my mission for this podcast was to create exactly that, an environment where people could come and tell their stories. Mm-hmm. It wasn't selfish to develop a venue to promote my book. We can do that anytime. But people need to tell their stories because the world needs to hear these stories. Because mm-hmm. everyone that hears your story, it will affect their lives. And hopefully they will take it to heart and affect someone else's life. And that's what it's all about.
I think there's this thing with technology where, look, I'm 36 years old. I embrace tech. I have the privilege really of living in a time, the late 80s, throughout the 90s and the early 2000s, of seeing things from, I grew up with a corded phone on the wall. You had to stand 6 feet from the phone, right? We were like a family who got the first computer, like we experienced the IBM Windows 95. We experienced the internet when it was dial-up. You had that, everybody knows the sound. You can hear it in your head right now. The dial-up modem. We experienced social media, smartphones. I got to see all of that. Technology is amazing in the things that have happened. The way that we can get stories out into the world, it's amazing at how tech has really provided this as a resource and really kind of a platform to do it. But it's the stories and the people that make it resonate and give it purpose. Because I think a lot of people worry that tech is just going to take over and everything is going to be robots and people aren't going to have a purpose. But again, the importance of connecting with one another is still as strong as ever. In business, clients. You connect with them, you relate to them, you get to know and understand them. That's what makes it important. When a company uses technology to understand its user, it's basically a tool to understand people. And then they can better serve and sell and promote and do what they need to do with that information. So to me, technology is a tool, but the people will always be the driving force behind companies, businesses, and like the purpose behind the product and service.
I agree with that. And, I had occasion to talk to some young people the other day, and they were asking about my history in business. And as you know, I'm as old as Methuselah, so I've been in business a long time. I got my first job when I was 12 years old, and I'm now 80 years old. So that's a long span of time in between.
Yeah.
But people, I will tell you this, regardless of the technological changes and the way we reach people, people still do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Mm-hmm.
And the capacity to know, like, and trust has just exploded with this new technology, because you can reach out to people one-on-one in a way that never happened in print, never happened in television. It happens in a dialogue.
It has life. There's life behind it. It's not a piece of paper, which, there's life to the story. When you read a newspaper article, you can get inspired by that. And you can imagine the person who's saying the words on the page, and there's a little mystery behind it, which is kind of cool. But there's definitely life and energy. I love video podcasts because you get to feel and see the person and their energy a little bit better than the audio only. But one thing I want to commend you on, Carl, and I'm not just tooting your horn here trying to make you feel good. I do believe this, and that's why I'm excited to have you as a friend and also a mentor and be on your show, is that you just admitted, hey, I'm 80 years old, right? You joke about being a dinosaur and all this stuff. I'm inspired by you, Carl. You started a podcast at 80 years old. You've had so much business success over all these years, and you're still learning and growing like you're a 12-year-old kid playing in the sandbox, having fun. And that, I want everybody who's listening right now, I don't care how old you are, there's no excuse. Carl's doing it at 80. He's learning more. He'll text me and ask me a question. How do I do this? He wanted to get getting guests on his show automated instead of asking everybody one by one in email. That's clunky. I said, hey, here's a resource tool that I use, and you can use it, and I'll even help you set it up. And we did. And you were forward thinking about it. So not a cliche, but age is a number, and it's your mentality in which you put out that it really makes a difference, because somebody could be 25 and have a shutdown, closed, hardened mentality, and they're not going to learn and grow and develop and help more people. And the reason that you've been successful, I don't know all of your story. I know a lot of it now, but I can tell you, if I had to guess, it's because you actually care about the people that you serve. And that is what's got you where you're at today. And that's how you have a beautiful wife, Mary Ellen. Shout out to her. She's also a friend of mine now. And you guys were generous with during the holidays. And just, I can tell that it's not about you. It's about who you're serving. And that is what put you where you're at today.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate that. And I will follow up on that to anyone who's watching. If anybody thinks they have nothing to contribute, shame on you. You've been given so many hours of life, so many days of life. Use them to the fullest, to the last breath in your body. Use it to the fullest. I've been close to death many times in my life. And if I were to have sat there and let it overcome me, we wouldn't be sitting here talking like this today.
Right.
It just wouldn't have happened. I know that through faith and through God's direction and through blessings that have been given to me, there's more to come. And I look forward to more to come. I have a little fun because my grandson called me the other day and said, Poppy, I'm thinking of doing a podcast. How should I do it? My grandson.
That's the coolest thing ever. How about that?
How about that? He's been published 5 times already, 5 different books. He's 34 years old. He's probably about your age, a little younger than you. And he called me to say, how do I start a podcast? So I gave you a name.
I love that. Yeah, that's amazing. That's so cool. Yeah, it goes to show you, look, anybody can learn from anyone at any age. And yeah, I'm glad that we got that out there, because I wanted to make sure that you also took the second to, because you're go, go, go. I know how you operate. You're always moving. So it's important for you and anyone who's listening to take a moment, take a deep breath, be grateful for what you have. You mentioned at the top of the show, be great and be grateful. Really, the big key there is to reflect in gratitude for what you have, and then make the most of it. what I'll kind of piggyback on that whole thing about serving, when things really turned for me in my life and beautiful things came from it, I look back now and I realize it's when I got out of my own way and out of my own head and stopped thinking that it was about me and doing things for me. Once I started to do things for him, talking about God, of service to make this place better than it found me when I was born in 1986, I do feel it's my personal responsibility. And I think anybody listening, I want you to reflect on the fact that we're responsible to make this place better when we leave, whenever that is. We don't know our end date, but it would really be a sin to pass away and not have made any contributions on this planet in some way. There's so many different ways you can do it, and you don't need money to do it. You can simply be kind to the person when you're cashing out at the grocery store, or you can help somebody in so many ways. You can call a friend who you haven't talked to in a long time. You can do it in a massive scale too, with a business or product or service that helps serve. You can do it in your local community, at the church, serving on the tech team and worship team. For me personally, that's a great way that I feel good about serving. But when it really turned is when I stopped trying to do it for me, and I started to realize that I was on a bigger purpose, way bigger than Mike DiCioccio. I'm just part of it all, and I get to put my 2 feet on the ground every day. Look, right there, that's a blessing. Not everybody gets to stand out of bed in the morning. Once I do that, I say, thank you, God, so much for this blessing. I get to breathe air. Thank you, God, for this blessing, and so forth. And that's really it. And once I realized it's not about me, I'm part of the plan. I'm part of what I can contribute, but it's a lot bigger than me.
Okay, I'd be remiss in this environment, if I didn't stop you at that moment and ask you, what brought you to that point? Because either a person or an event motivated and moved you to recognize, hey, 180 is needed here.
Yeah. God knows that he needs to get my attention with the frying pan because I'm a stubborn Italian. I don't know if you know any of those people.
Oh, really?
I always, when I think it's about me, it's me, me, me. It's my way. I'm going to figure this out. It's going to be right. It's going to be on my time. And I was doing that, and I was doing it. So I was so wrong. It actually took me having a rock bottom moment, which I've had a few of those, unfortunately, over the last handful of years. And a lot of them are self-caused because of being led in the wrong direction and doing the wrong things. That's how you learn. That's how you grow. But what happened in 2017, I ended up going through a divorce. You can say it was a mutual divorce. Really, my ex kind of came to me and said we were done. But I also knew we were done because the pilot light in our marriage was really out. And we were getting counseling and everything. And I remember thinking to myself, like, initially, my mentality was to fix it. It's something's broken, you fix it. And also my pride in being Italian was that, look, a lot of my family and ancestors, and it was long marriages. You dealt with the hard stuff, pick up, wear your big boy pants and you get through it. And, I've seen my parents go through adversity and different things that have happened, and they always get through it. So to me, I was like, hey, I got to salvage this and make it work. But then I realized, I knew it wasn't the best for both of us because I didn't think we ended up being the right partners for each other. And once you can evaluate that and realize, okay, well, we need to move on in some way, which we did. And I made a number of mistakes in the past that I've owned up to. And now it's made me a better person because you can take something that happens and change from it. And it also, at that moment in time, I went from being in a relationship, a marriage in which it's two partners making decisions collectively. At least it was for us always, right? So at that point in time, I was in sales, and I was about 10 years, 12 years or so, maybe a little more in sales. And that was something that I didn't grow up thinking I would ever pursue or be great at. So just a word to the audience is that you never know what your calling or your gifts are going to be, but as you start to do things, be aware of them and start to take notice of what's happening in your life. And so I got myself in this position where I was really at that point serving the family, putting bread on bacon on the table, that kind of thing, like, financially taking care of the family. But I got away from being Mike, the passions and the things. I went to school at Buffalo State College for media production. As a youngster, I loved creating, whether it was music, or film, writing screenplays with my brother and acting them out and videotaping them. I got away from some of the things. Not that my ex-wife never asked me to stop being me, or she never said, don't play the drums, don't do this. There certainly wasn't a lot of encouragement necessarily like that to have those passions come out. But I also kind of got into like this business version of Mike, and I didn't really allow room to be myself. And so when the divorce happened, I was listening to Ed Milet, one of my favorite podcasters and entrepreneurs. And on his show a lot, he was teaching about the mentality of things happen for you, not to you. And I started to think, hey, is this what's going on with me right now? This divorce happened. I'm not able to change it. It already happened. Was it devastating? Yeah, in many ways. The biggest thing for me that I was worried about and scared about and that really hurt me was that it was impacting my time with Isabel, who you mentioned. I have a beautiful daughter, now 6 years old. And that's where you hit me where it hurts, when you're taking her away, and I had limited time. So all I could think of is I'm down on the mat. I'm at a low point here. I want to do something that's bigger and greater than me. And I was working in corporate America as a store manager, and I was doing really well. I was successful, hitting awards and all kinds of good stuff. But I ended up walking away from it. Similar to a Pro Bowler walking away from a sport when their heart, kind of like Andrew Luck, he just knew that there was something different he was ready to go do, and the next chapter was ready to be written. And a lot of people kind of said, "You're nuts. What are you doing? You got a 1 in 32 job in the entire world here. What are you doing, man?" So I walked away from it because it wasn't what I felt called to do. And then I really surrendered because early on in business, things didn't go smoothly. I kind of joked recently on a podcast or so, like if I had to stick a stick in the ground and that was it, plant a flag, like the wind would have knocked it over. I mean, everything I tried to do, it fell apart. I felt like I was almost cursed or something, like I would have an idea. It seemed great. I try it and it just fell apart. So that happened a number of times to the point where I now know why. It's because I was trying to do everything for me, and God was like, that's not what this is about. And so eventually I surrendered. I remember I was kind of like driving in my car, just totally lost of what my purpose was in the world. I walked away from a good paying job. I'm losing my time with my daughter. My family thinks I'm crazy because I started a company and getting divorced in the same time. So money wasn't exactly in a place to become an entrepreneur. And just asked God, you know what I said? I said, put me, like, I'm a soldier in your army. Whatever you feel I need to do to serve you and make this world a better place, I'll do that. I don't care what it is. You put me here, and I want you to use me however you want. And I'm not trying to make it seem selfish, but at the same time, when that happened and I started to do things in service to others, opposed to like me first, beautiful things did come from it. And now I look back on the last 4 years, and as rocky as it was, I met some of the most amazing people, including yourself, Carl. I met business people and partners. I grew a team. I've created a company that survived the pandemic and is doing better today than it was when it started. I've gotten so much closer to God. I got baptized in the Christian faith because I grew up Catholic, and I was a believer throughout my life, but I always had questions about faith. And that particular religion didn't click for me. Similar to when I was in school, the reason I didn't ever do well in a class was because I wasn't necessarily interested or connect to it. But I was connecting with the Christian faith that I went to a local church that was different than the one I went to as a child. And it resonated with me. The pastor, the way he spoke, the messages he gave out of the same Bible the other Catholic church is doing. Right. And that's not a knock on Catholicism. It's just, I'm telling you, it resonated with me. And I realized the one thing I didn't do as an adult was I didn't make an actual statement of baptism. That happened when I was an infant. So I wanted to come out and say, I'm a believer and do that, in faith. And so that's when things changed. I got baptized. I still can continue to be better in the word and better in my Bible daily. But I would say anything that's been a blessing to me is part of my journey and to help other people. That's why I do the podcast. You mentioned it at the top. It's a show on a mission to inspire people to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams. The reason there's this be great part is use your God-given gifts and talents and be great at it. Don't be half, mediocre. Go and be great. If you can do something, do it to the best of its ability. If you're a janitor, clean the floor the best you can. If you're a football player, go win the Super Bowl. Don't just get to the playoffs. And be grateful, because all the beautiful things that come to us, don't take anything for granted. So I encourage anyone, if maybe your things are going really well in your life, be 1,000,000% grateful for that when you wake up and when you go to bed. And if things aren't going well, be grateful for that too, because now you have different experiences that you wouldn't have had if they didn't happen to you. And I know that's hard, because we could be talking about death. I lost my dad in 2020 to COVID, 69 years old, totally got robbed. My grandmother passed away, with COVID as well. And so I've seen people recently impacted in a way that it's like, how do you ever say that there's good from that situation? And it's extremely difficult. But all I can do is say, like the marriage, it happened. I am not able to change that outcome. All I can do now is somehow be a better person from it. So I'm a better business person today, because I know I want to make my dad as proud as ever. And I know he's watching me. And my grandma, the things that she sacrificed for our family, I want to make her proud. And my other grandparents who have passed previously, I want to make them proud. They came over with not a clue in how they were going to make it happen. They came over from another country, literally put their lives on the line to come to a new country and start from the ground up for a better outcome for their family that didn't even exist yet, being me. And it would be a damn shame if I sat somewhere doing a 9-to-5 job that I hated, and just kind of threw away what they fought for. And so I don't believe everybody necessarily should or needs to be an entrepreneur. That's my calling, and that's what I feel called to do. And the things I want to serve in require entrepreneurship. But someone may be an athlete, so go be the greatest or whatever you feel called to do there. Maybe you want to manage a bank. That's not necessarily an entrepreneurship, but that could be your calling, to be the best in that field. You could be a school teacher. That's a wonderful job, and something that, especially today with teachers going through COVID. Shout out to all the teachers that have been going through the last 2-3 years of this struggle with COVID and trying to do it from home and from school half the time. And it's extremely crazy, but I have a lot of respect for that profession. And that could be somebody's success story. Success doesn't always mean you're a $1 billion entrepreneur.
Oh, no.
If that's part of your story,
you feel accomplished and you've done in this world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's the fulfillment. To me, fulfillment is what it's all about, and it's personal gratification. But the greatest fulfillment now for me is knowing that I am serving and doing the things. When I was at my worst, what was important to me then needs to be exactly what's important to me when I'm at my best. And that's serving others and making this place better than it found me.
And while doing that, the world recognizes the quality that you're providing. It recognizes how invested you are in your clients and the people around you, and your business grows, because your business has certainly grown since you've taken this motion. Well, since starting it, of course, it had a slow beginning, but then it has grown expeditiously, and you have goals for going even larger, and I see no reason why you can't.
I have a big vision for what the company is going to be, because I know if we have 10 clients, hey, great. But if we could have 100, why would we not want to do that? Obviously, right. Because then now we're serving. And most of the podcasts that we do produce at Social Chameleon are also inspiring, similar to your show, similar to Mic'd Up, where it's getting great content, good news, good stories. It's not just always feel good, but it's inspiring things that we can learn from. Right. I have a new show called Abundant Hope with two fantastic women who are taking two separate organizations, Abundantly More and Hope Rises, which I recommend anybody researches those organizations. And they're coming together and they're telling stories to help inspire people through these amazing stories. So it's going to be similar to your platform. I love producing that content because, you know what, you turn the local news on and all you see is all the beat down stories that make you feel like the world's going to end tomorrow. And as real as those situations are, and I'm not saying be ignorant, I'm saying that's similar to those things are happening and we may not have control over them. we can control what's in our heart, we can control our own actions, and we can certainly try to combat the negativity with positivity.
That's right.
And that's what works for me. I'm not saying everybody has to do that, because if that's not natural or the right fit for you, but I certainly would hope that more people can wake up and connect with positive than waking up and being a negative source of energy. What good is that, right? That doesn't serve you or the people around you.
And I got to tell you, which I'm sure you'll agree with, it feels so much better to smile and be happy than to be begrudging all the time. I see people who seem to walk around their lives with this black cloud over their head, like that old comic trick, Smiling Jack,
Yeah.
where the guy who had a black cloud over his head all the time, and he was popping buttons off his shirt constantly.
There's this picture that sums it up so well. It's two guys in a jail, and they're looking out their windows. One guy's over here, one guy's over here. And he's looking out the windows, and they got a blank canvas, whatever, they're doing art, they're in jail. And one guy's painting, and he paints the bars. He's looking at the window, and he paints the bars on the window. You look at the other guy's art, and he has the beautiful sun, there's birds, there's a beautiful landscape, and he's painting the beautiful landscape. One person sees the jail cell, the other person sees what's through the window. It's mentality. They both have the same view. It's two guys both doing the same project, art. And what's different is the mentality. It's what we see. So that person who feels that the cloud is over them, sure, maybe they've had a number of things that make them feel that way. I'm not trying to point the finger or whatever. I know you're not either. But all I can say is if you're feeling like that, then it's okay not to be okay. So first, acknowledge it. Number two, take action. How can I fix this? How can I actually get some positive energy into my life? So first thing you have to do is acknowledge a problem before you can fix it. And I learned that really early on in dating. You got to realize your hangups before you can fix them. So, the other person, it's a relationship thing. It's in business. On a recent podcast I did where I was interviewed as well, I have to say that the guest, shout out to Craig DiCioccio, he said, "Hey, Mike, I'm listening to your story. And one of the things I really noticed is that you got really good awareness." And I was like, I never had anybody tell me that before. And I think that's one of the most important things you could do is when all this stuff's happening around you, whether it's an entrepreneur or think of yourself within your family, because everybody who's got a family, if you're got children, you're kind of the entrepreneur of your household. Without awareness, it's hard to really fix things or if something's actually good to make it even better. So I thought that was one of the best compliments I've ever received in my life, because he's right in that, like with starting podcasting, I didn't know I was going to be doing this a handful of years ago. I started a media and marketing company thinking we're going to do websites and building people's Facebook pages. And then I launched my own show. And one of my clients was like, "Hey man, you know how to do podcasting? Can you do that for us?" And then once I launched their show, I was sold. I was like, I love this. I can make money doing this. I didn't even think about it as an option. And that's a great story that I want your audience to realize. Like, when you get into business, you don't always know what your product and service is going to look like when it's in its best form. But the first thing you got to do is get started, right? I didn't know I was going to be doing podcast services and be on purpose like this, but I got started and I figured it out. And then eventually I pivoted and cleaned up what I was doing. And I listened to all my mentors. They were all saying I was doing way too much. I had 17 different services. And then I turned it down into one main service and had a few different line items off of it. And once I did that, surprise, surprise, things started to go back in the right direction. No surprise there. But I'll say this, and then I'd love to get your feedback and whatever else you want to chat about. I wish I could give credit to the person who I first saw. This isn't a YouTube video. Guy talks about starting your business. And the most important thing is to get started. And the first month, you're selling squares. So it's a 4-sided object, all equal sides. You sell 3 of them. You're kind of frustrated. You spend a lot of time, you and your team, pulling your hair out to create these squares. The market's just not buying them. So then you change it to a triangle. You realize maybe it just had one too many sides. And the next month you sell 50 of them. Whoa, from 3 to 50, we're doing something right. You lost a side. Well, what is it? It's the pointy edges of this thing maybe seems to be what people don't like about it. And 6 months later, you finally get it into a circle and you sell 1,000 of them. You're like, holy smokes, it's the circle. Maybe they're selling bouncing balls. I don't know. I'm making a really simple analogy here. Well, guess what? you would have never created the bouncing ball if you didn't start with the square.
That's right.
If you waited to build the bouncing ball and you built it, everyone else who's already in the game is learning and growing and changing and adapting. And you're going to be way behind the game if you wait 6 months just to put your first idea on paper and then take action. We live in a world that's fast changing. So if you wait until you think you have it all figured out to get started, you're going to be way behind. And the thing is, you need the information of those 6 months to get to the circle by failing fast, by learning from resources, coaches. The greatest people in business and sports and any profession have coaches. Michael Jordan did, Tom Brady does, Elon Musk, I'm sure, has an advisory board. Doesn't matter what level you're at. You get coaches and you have people helping you out. So you have a checks and balances system. So anybody who wants to do something great in the world, figure out what it is, what lights you up, how you can serve in that, and then realize the most important thing you can do is get started first. And the second most important thing you can do is always work on that roadmap. Because if you have a roadmap, you can certainly get somewhere a lot quicker than if you're blindsided and you're trying to find the target, like a mouse finding cheese in the darkness. Like, just what if you had a road?
That's absolutely right. And I will tell you from personal experience, every successful man I know, myself included, has failed along the way. We've all tried different things and failed along the way, but we've done something very significant that's important. You learn from your failures. If you don't examine what has not worked and tear it down so you understand what went wrong with it, you can never make something better in the future. So you have to learn from your mistakes as well. And part of the secret.
Not to sound like it's a cheesy Instagram quote or something, but it's true that like the greatest people in any profession are those that have tried and failed more than other people have even thought about it, right? Like, the reason Michael Jordan has an awesome quote, I forget exactly the number of shots he says, but it was like 9,000. He's like, the reason that I'm successful is because I took 9,000 shots, and he missed. He knew every shot he missed. He knew mathematically every shot he missed. But the reason he said I was successful is because I took the shots, right? And he got better every time he missed. He figured out why, how, his footing, whatever, and he kept working on it. But if he just had to make game-winning shots and he only took the shots 3 times a game, then he's never going to learn, grow, get better. Like, it's just not enough. It's not enough reps.
That's right.
What makes you better in sales is picking the phone up and hammering them. That's a little bit old school. It still happens today. But today I would say, it's reps in Zoom meetings. I've done over 100 interviews. I certainly feel more comfortable doing it today than I did on my third one. I laugh when I go back and listen to watch me on my first episodes. I was so nervous in a good way about trying to figure out what I was doing. And look, you're 80 and you're figuring things out, and you have the energy of somebody that's, I'm not joking, like a kid playing in the sandbox. And I think that's so important. I'll say this: if somebody doesn't have that energy about what they're doing, then that's your red flag, because you should have the same excitement that you did playing in the yard with your friends when you were a kid. That's right. That's the same energy you should have with whatever you're doing. If you're doing it 8 hours out of the day working, or 10 or 12 hours, and you're having zero fun and fulfillment from it, that needs to be evaluated.
Yeah. What's the point of doing it? If you can't get joy out of it and excitement, if it doesn't re-energize your passion for life, what's the point of doing it?
And that's not to say like it's not hard. And there's days when I feel certainly like, holy smokes, I'm really getting my butt kicked here or whatever, working long hours. That certainly happens. But I'll tell you, whether it's the guy who owns the restaurant and literally he was the chef, he was the waiter, he was the cashier in the first couple months, doing it all himself. And now he's got the successful restaurant and he's still working hard. Thinking of a local guy here who owns a restaurant. He's still there. He's probably your age. He's there every day, sits people down at the table. And he doesn't have to be, he could be on vacation in a number of resorts, but he is there. And I can tell that he still has that excitement when he sees someone smiling. When a couple walks out of his restaurant holding hands, feeling like $1 million because they just had the best meal of the year. This guy's energy level is electric. Right. And that's how it should be. Even when you're working hard, it just takes one moment a day, I feel like sometimes, to remember the magic of why you're doing it.
That's right. Absolutely right. Mm-hmm. And I also know that you are a generous man. You give of your time. You were named Man of the Year for some charity work that you did. And I think that's commendable. I think all of us as individuals should be willing to give of our time for someone else's needs and help. The scriptures, the Bible tells us that to whom much is given, much is expected. And I know that that's true. You have to give of yourself. And you cannot give God, because no matter what you give in your time, no matter what you give in your bounty, it's miraculous how it seems to come back. It always does. May not come back immediately the same day, but you look at your life and you trail it, you look at the path of your life and you see it comes back over and over again.
Yeah. You don't do it with the expectation of giving to receive. You do it to give. No. And then, and I know you meant that. I want to just correct you on one thing, and I appreciate you bringing it up. I did not win Man of the Year. I was nominated. But I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something I feel I can teach through my story. When that happened, that was in 2020. So it was like middle of the pandemic. We weren't even sure how we were going to do it. It was when everything was locked down. So Man of the Year, what it is LLS, which is Leukemia Lymphoma Society, beautiful organization for helping people with blood cancer. They were having an inaugural year, first year in Buffalo ever, to do this Man of the Year, Woman of the Year campaign, right? There are about 10 candidates in Buffalo. I was nominated as one of them. Now, when I sat down for coffee with my friend who I haven't seen in 10 years, and she's telling me she got the job as campaign manager for this in Buffalo, I was so excited and happy for her. And then she hit me with the, comma, I'd like to nominate you as one of the Men of the Year for Buffalo. And I was like, what are you, like, how? I didn't know what that meant. I was like, so excited and happy to hear it. But then I realized, man, I would be pouring from an empty cup, right? Because I was at that point in time struggling through business. The pandemic was kind of having everybody pull our hair out and figuring out how I was going to succeed through it. I didn't have time, that's for sure. I mean, I was barely finding time for myself as it was. And I reflected and I told her, I didn't tell her yes or no right away. I said, I need to pray on it and reflect and meditate on it. I got back to her because God eventually got a hold of my heart. And he said, are you kidding me? I put her here asking you this question and you're going to sit there and potentially say no to it, So I said yes to it. And I realized that the reason I said yes, Carl, is because if I raised $100, which would have been not a success at all, it still would have been worth it, because I'm helping out in some way. We ended up raising over $150,000 collectively in Buffalo in the first year doing that campaign, in the middle of a time when the pandemic was very fresh. People didn't know if they're going to go back to work. People were laid off. Maybe in some instances, their businesses were failing and closed down. We were asking people for money during all of it and giving, and we still raised a great amount. And that wasn't me, but I did a portion of that, but not the majority of it by any means. And collectively, we did $150,000 in Buffalo, and I was a part of it. And it was a lesson that I learned, that I didn't have to have it all figured out or even have the time and energy, but I gave as much as I could and then some, and beautiful things came from it. And it just reminded me that God will provide a way for you. We don't have it figured out. We don't always know what the road looks like. But the thing is, I said yes, and I did it the best I can physically and mentally to give to this organization, and God took care of the rest. And so a lot of times, you may be told, hey, take care of yourself. You can't give from, and you got to wear your own oxygen mask on the plane before you can help your neighbor or your family member, whoever's sitting on the plane next to you. Totally true, because you can't help anybody if you're not alive and well. Right. But at the same time, you can do more than zero. That's how I looked at it.
That's right.
So did I win? No. Was I in it to win it? I was in it to win it. But I'll tell you what, I won in a different way. I won in the fact that we raised money for blood cancer patients and families and research. And it was an amazing event. Second to that.
Let me just take a moment and personalize that for you.
Yeah, please.
As the older brother of a 39-year-old young woman who died of Hodgkin's lymphoma, I thank you for the effort. I thank you for the work and the recognition that people have to combine together to beat this dreaded situation. So personally, I thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Carl. I appreciate that. And sorry to hear that about your sister.
Long time.
My cousin was 2 at the time. he's like a second cousin, but doesn't matter. Cousin was 2 at the time, going through leukemia treatments. And when I knew that and I was connected to it, I said, I'm doing this for Ben. And I'm doing this for anybody who's been through it with family members who are either here currently going through it or lost a family member. And he's now out of remission. He's doing well. He beat leukemia. He's 3 now. Just had his 3rd birthday. Yeah. Shout out to little Ben. That's what these charities are about. I got to realize, I say me, but anyone who's listening, it's the money that you're giving to a donation like that's not always just to help the people going through it in the moments or the families. It's really the research to help it on a bigger scale. So 50 years from now, the medicine can be way better than what it is today.
Well, Mike, we're at 46 minutes here already, believe it or not. And we're going to have to close up in a minute or two. Yeah. Tell me what's on the horizon for Mike DiCioccio. Anything new that you're working on that you want to tell everybody about?
As far as what's new right now, I'm kind of continuing the things that I've set out. So this year, I'm looking to continue to grow Social Chameleon. Again, you mentioned a podcast production business, and we're producing this show, which is really exciting. It's kind of cool to be on the show. But really, it's connecting with more great people like we already talked about, and just finding ways that we can together serve more people. It's growing my team. I got to give a shout out to Social Chameleon and our team, because I wouldn't be here without them. That's Randall, Samantha, Todd, Nate. You guys are all fantastic. And I just named, in the beginning it was me, myself, and I. So now it's great to have those teammates to make this happen. I wouldn't be able to do it without them. And in 2022, I'm going to be adding people to that mix so we can help more people. I'm going to continue to serve and do more things on the worship team in this year. And also, look, I've been single since 27. Well, that's not true. I did date a little bit last year, and kind of getting back in that. So I don't know. I see that maybe in the near future, finally turning the corner, because I've been intentional about just making sure I'm taking care of myself first. And I think I've done a nice job with that mentally and physically, and just getting ready. You got to be ready. And so who knows what the future holds, but I just put it out there. I'm single, ladies. No, my inbox is going to blow up.
You hear that, girls? He's attractive and he's single.
Yeah. Well, hey, those are your words, but this is a personal show, and we're all about transparency. And I'll just say this, like, if I can help anybody out in the moment right now, I'm someone who doesn't really necessarily do well single, because I always love that giving and like making somebody feel great and happy and stuff. And since I was 15, I was always in a relationship. High school sweetheart for 3 years. After that, I was always in more serious relationships. I was dating for 3 years, then got married. I was married for 6 years. So from like age 15 until 31, I was always in like a relationship and always with someone and giving and having that camaraderie, that sharing the world with somebody. And then in 2017, I had to kind of fall in love with myself again, which is a really important thing to do, because otherwise we talk about giving from an empty cup, but also you're just kind of not really being yourself. And I know that for me to find the right person, I need to be the person that they would be attracted to. And so I just this is my encouragement to anyone who maybe feels a little bit down and out personally. Maybe they went through a tough breakup or divorce or something. Use that time to spend with yourself, because it's really important that you do love yourself, so you can then be loved and give love. So that's what I did in 2021. And now in 2022, I'm looking to continue that, but also maybe turn the page there. And that's what I'm excited about. I don't know what that's going to look like. So looking forward to it.
I wish you all God's blessings, young man. You deserve it. And I know that he will find the right person for you when the time is right. I'm sure of that. I'm a living example of that. The last 15 years of my life have been a complete transformation from what was to what has become just great. Great. So, folks, we're at the end of this show. It's been 49 minutes plus, and I have to say that I hope you enjoyed the show. I certainly did. I learned so much. I know this young man for about a year now, and yet I learned a tremendous amount on this show, just chatting with him, two guys together. And so I encourage you, tell your story, everyone. Everybody has a story. and your story is uniquely yours. Make sure you write it down. Write it in the book of life, because if you don't, it will be lost. Make it become your legacy. Your family deserves it. The world deserves it. Tell someone you love them today. It's very important. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning into the show. I hope that it resonated with you. It certainly did with me. And I hope it encouraged you to realize the true power of your story. As a reminder, new episodes will be released Wednesday mornings on your favorite podcast apps and also on YouTube as well. Be sure to like, subscribe, and turn your notification button on to ensure that you receive updates on new episode releases. I'm grateful for your reviews and your support. The love is certainly felt. Keep it coming. You can reach out to connect with me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, or stop by my website, toeverypageofturning.com. All links are clickable in the show notes for quick access. Do you think that you or someone you know may be our most inspiring guest yet? Let's hope so. Click on our contact page and get in touch on my website and share your story. I look forward to reading each one personally. My best-selling book, To Every Page of Turning, which was published by Mascot Books, is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, and many more popular book retailers. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Till next time, remember that every day is a new opportunity to write your new page in your incredible journey. And it is incredible. You're the only one who has it.